Bob to represent data visualization, Tony to represent statistics, and Alex to represent applied mathematics. Wonderful. Now, the reason I asked for people's electronic devices to actually go through the tape to see something that's going to be useful for you locally was that I thought we'd use a little system that we started trialling in the ATN, and I quite like the look of it. I went to a meeting last week and it seemed to work quite well. So, it's this online thing. So, if you get out your devices, go to this website here and enter this code in. Now, what it's going to ask you is, first of all, a very important question. It's just to make sure that it's working. Would you rather fight, I don't know who's got it in front of them, would you rather fight 50 duck-sized horses or fight one horse-sized duck? So just to see that the system's working, that's the question. The next question is more useful, hopefully, and it's, in your opinion, what are the barriers for deploying uncertainty quantification and management techniques in industry? So while you're doing that,
we've gone straight to the
serious question. It's gone straight to the serious question.
Yeah.
Oh, does it work?
Mine's got come up with a code.
Yes, you need to put the code in. You need to put that code in. Oh, that's a shame.
Well, you really need to know that.
I do need to know about it.
We could do that one the old-fashioned way.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, okay.
I mean,
so
I'm saying the horse sized up.
that is the right answer. So as those coming in, that's just something, so what are we looking at? This is just something that I thought was quite an interesting way of getting everybody in the room's opinion on why this is difficult. Actually, let me leave it a little bit while those are filtering in. And then it leaves the panel. Sorry?
Yeah, we can't see them very well.
Oh, I'm sorry. It is biasy. Well, hopefully people aren't that easily swayed.
I daren't say cost. It's clearly the wrong answer.
So, okay, so the panel have 3 questions really to respond to, but are there any immediate thoughts to... Oh, actually, that was the wrong one. Okay. Yeah, any immediate responses perhaps from the panel? We've worked different stages in this world. Are there any huge surprises about those responses there?
I'm surprised that cost is not.
I think there might be a problem with the report and cost.
Oh, really? Are people voting for
I
cost?
voted for cost and it hasn't appeared.
Okay, alright, well, that's why we needed the duck question to get these kind of TV problems out of the way. Okay, that was unsuccessful.
Oh, there we go.
Did you vote for cost? Alright, okay, so this looks like it is working. Maybe
So-
this isn't
Well, easy access.
Well, I think that's one of the questions we could perhaps...
A number of the presenters today have talked about cost. You can't do it, if you like, you can't do it the wrong way. You've got to have an emulator because it's too expensive to do it with a full-blown algorithm. So how much is it? Is it cost?
Well, there's a separate one there for computer resource, which I guess is cost.
It's a function of the same thing, isn't it?
Well, costs out at the same time that we're getting the expertise in that can do those types of approaches.
I think it's very useful to separate the 2 costs out, because I think you're right in that computational cost is only in terms of time to get to a decision, which will eventually have financial implication as well. But if we separated those out, then I think most of the things we were talking about, the computational cost, was more about the time it takes to get to the data, get to the results.
So it's the cost of having to wait, not the cost of the actual calculations on the computer, not the computer time.
Computer time, not necessarily the cost of using that computer time. It is the way that we quite often talk about computation expensive. So I think that's probably why we've got computer resource separate from cost. only an assumption.
Yes.
So when we talk about computationally expensive, we're really talking about it takes a long time to get to results.
Okay.
And if we're having to do that a few hundred times, then that starts to play on the situation where decision makers are making a decision before the results are out because they can't wait anymore. Is that the way you see it as well, Ron?
Yeah, I mean, the thing, I sort of feel like, from my point of view, the big barrier is complexity, actually. I mean, cost could be a proxy for that. Because if you're not well organised, then it's very expensive to gather the right kind of resources you need to do a UQ study. And that's the barrier. So, from my point of view, it's actually... And when you look at people who, because a lot of the issue is around knowledge and data and automating design systems. And if you can get well organised enough, you can do the work. But actually, to get to that point is very expensive.
Okay, so with that in the background, we go back to our three questions that the panel were tasked to find the answers for. So, first question, that's from the handout, and it's useful to have people's thoughts on this as well, speaking from the panelists. Well, where do they see their area of expertise as having a part in the UQ and M industry conversation? So, who wants to start? Shall we? Let's start.
Can I skip to question number 2? Well, would you rather certain stage?
Let's stick with one. Yeah.
That's a no.
We can start at the other end if you want to have a bit of time to think about that.
Okay. Well, from the point of view of applied mathematics, we have the role of providing models. That's also true for statistics, of course. We have the role of translating or eliciting expert knowledge. It is when you go and talk to an expert and try to understand a problem that you can start modeling, or maybe there's already a model and you can contribute in the sense of providing more efficient solutions, computational solutions, for example, or there might be some colleague from statistics and the statistical model needs some optimization techniques that you can contribute with. So our role is to provide models that bridge theory with practice, and also the role of complementing the expertise of other people who might have already been working in these problems. As somebody said in one of the talks, there is this virtuous cycle in which academia works with industry, and then we are aware of what are the kind of problems that need to be solved out there, and at the same time industry can have a glimpse of the landscape, the research landscape, and know what are the latest developments in methodology that can be very useful to solve the problems.
Okay, well, my interest, my concern has always been to further the use of, if you like, good statistical thinking to manage, understand, quantify, model, analyze uncertainties. So my whole business is about uncertainty, and all the things that I do are involved with modeling uncertainty, describing uncertainty, quantifying it, manipulating it, and in the end maybe managing it. So what's that got to do with industry? Well, I just think industry would benefit from doing this properly. That actually understanding the uncertainties in everything you do is surely a good thing. It helps you to make better decisions, provided you know how to use that uncertainty. And unfortunately, there is a lack of understanding of how to understand and use uncertainty in decision making. But the first step is to make sure it's out there and available, and then try and get people to understand what to do with it.
Well, actually, yeah, we'll come back after this. Okay, that's right. Oh, the role of data visualization.
So I see my role primarily as an educator. So the UK on a global scale is behind in visualization competency and visualization knowledge, data visualization as a field. Right? The leaders are in North America, mainland Europe, and Asia, actually. So one of my goals is just to educate the UK and say, look, there are innovative data visualization research going on, and to provide as much expertise as possible and provide as much training as possible, especially to our students, so that they, when they join industry, they can bring that knowledge. There's a knowledge transfer that takes place, and to try to evolve the data visualization knowledge. Data visualization was very unknown as a field when I started way back 50 years ago. But around the year 2000, data visualization was a very obscure, very niche, very much unknown as a discipline at all. Now it's entering the collective conscious of industry and society and the educational system. And I think we're at the beginning, but we still need to push and utilize this momentum.
Okay, so yeah, any responses from Laura? People want to ask that question themselves.
Yeah, one really came out of my before I meant, just Tony's point there. I mean, first of all, I couldn't write quickly enough to respond to all the things you were triggering there, so try not to prattle on. Tony, you said first thing first, get the language of uncertainty quantification from sound statistical foundations into, I guess, the communication channels of, I suppose we're thinking about engineering networks, certain engineering problems. My observation in my business is that really it's the kind of the top level decision making that drives the opportunity for engineering to explore anything other than what they did before in solving any engineering problem. Completely ignoring the fact that actually the sensitivity of our engineering problems is getting, the way they interact with one another is getting more stark, and our margins for error seem to be shrinking away. But if we try and say that in an economic term in a business, you're told, shut up and pick up what you did last time and give me a similar answer that surely you're happy to rest upon this time around. So the question, I suppose, was, if in an industrial context there's a limited opportunity to enhance our language, how could we stimulate that system differently? I suppose maybe I'm still thinking like, listen to Lynn, how can we, because it's so clear to me that we need that enhancement in the language, but it does seem from within the industry base that there's just kind of a lack of interest in it. Because it's like asking for a simple answer, being told there is no simple answer. The person holding the money is not interested in that response.
It's a big point. I guess academics are quite used to the idea that they think they've got an answer to something, a problem that unfortunately nobody realises they've got. And trying to persuade people that you've got a problem that I've got an answer to is a very thankless task. But this setup here is designed to work towards that. We are trying to pioneer through some industrial contacts, through some more enlightened industrial contacts, the methods and show that they work and show that they provide benefit to the industry. The only way that other people are going to want to do it is if they see they're losing out by not catching up with the latest ideas. So feeding it through in this way, it's still going to be hard to get down to a lot of hidebound industries. That's unfortunately the British disease as far as this is concerned. But let's see what we can do.
Can I comment to that? There needs to be a couple of things. Risk-taking. People must be willing to take risks, and also management of expectations. people in the industry and academia have to communicate and understand that to generate new solutions takes time. To generate the trust in a working relationship takes time, and we have to be very honest in the sense that that the methods are not definite solutions. Methods have limitations, and it is when methods fail that we realize how else can we develop them. So there should be more patience, more risk taking, and management of those kinds of expectations.
So a lot of that's about academic industry interface. What about the interface between disciplines? Is that something that's harder to manage or easier to manage?
I don't find it a big problem. Yes, I think universities are rather academic silo-driven, but there is much more awareness now of the value of cross-disciplinary interactions. And I certainly felt that even 20 years ago when I was starting at Sheffield, there was a buzz around that sort of thing, and I'm sure it continues. So I don't think it's a problem in academia, and obviously in some aspects, some people. Another problem with academics is they're always very busy with their own research. And you've got to start with young people who haven't yet become too firmed up on a particular area and give them something exciting to work on, and that works.
I can say that from a visualization point of view, life is easy for cross-disciplinary projects. I get lots of people knocking on my door saying, I have this huge complicated data set, can you help me? Like, it happens all the time, so it's quite easy.
Yes.
Do you want to come back? No, you want to come back on that? It's a new question.
Yeah, on Bob's point, more not one and earlier, who don't fully agree with that. I mean, I agree, like, okay, there is lack of appreciation of data visualization as a kind of theory or knowledge. But then what is missing, even from what you've seen, and that's not a criticism actually, I mean, even so I admire what you saw many today, was missing the engineering perspective of data visualization. And I think this is what makes the gap even larger between industry and academic data visualization. Because people coming from computer science angle, then they find that we need more attractively more to work in gaming industry rather than in aerospace industry. And this is where most of the people are going to, devote their knowledge to data visualization.
Yeah.
So we'll follow up with it over there.
I mean, do you find that perhaps, Sanjay, from a large design company that you struggle to attract the best, even the best numerical
I think we've got, sorry, Ronnie's been holding her hand up for a while, so I'll be quick and I'll come back to you. One of the things that we do now, I think creates a lot of our own path, is that we go to the same old departments recruiting. And we recognize that there is a need to have people with statistics, with mathematics, and with sort of data vision and visualization in mind. But in order to get our HR department to buy into it and to raise the job descriptions in that way, it is a tricky business. So a lot of that is internal. And one of the things we find in this is that if we do try and recruit, so for example, if we were to look at power quarters, it is one example, a new introduction of ways of doing things, people are not able to interpret the data because they don't know how to manipulate it, they don't know how reordering the axes might give you some ideas of where the correlation or anti-correlations are and so on. So they haven't built the same insights to the way of reading the graphs or reading I call them graphs rather than pictures because I think what we're presenting here do have meaning behind them. They're not just pictures and simple diagrams. The same sort of level of detail they have knowledge of in, say, being able to read spectrograms or being able to read both plots. They don't have the same intuition being able to read probability density functions, cumulative distribution functions, and so on. So I think a lot of it is about building that knowledge within those areas to go to.
Apologies to Ronnie, I want to come back on that. It's a real problem. Statistics is nobody's core business. You understand your core business, you understand engineering, aerospace and so on. You know how to recruit those people, you know what good ones look like. If you don't have statisticians there to begin with, how are you going to know what a good one looks like? And it's a big problem everywhere. Even when there's an awareness that you would like to have those people, as you found yourself, just making that happen and knowing how to find them and where to find them and what they look like when you got them is a big question.
I wouldn't know what a statistician looks like.
So I think more broadly, uncertainty quantification, I always found to be a difficult thing to get across, because if you spent a lot of time developing a complex numerical model that gives you an answer, and you are happy with that answer, then, and I apologise for the loose terminology here, then there is a risk in incorporating uncertainty, because suddenly your answer could be completely off, and then that has huge cost implications, and actually you're quite happy with your answer. How do we communicate the benefits of incorporating uncertainty well enough to convince people that that risk is worth taking? And I again apologise for the use of this.
Yeah, no, it's not a welcome message, is it?
No.
I'm always finding more uncertainty than people think they've got. It's not welcome, but you know. You just make the whole thing more complicated, do you?
More uncertain.
I feel I want to acknowledge all the uncertainty that's out there. And we find that big errors come from not doing that. The economic crash. People just not realising that there were uncertainties in there that were being driven by the way that they operated. Big uncertainties.
So I see that the economic crash, for me, is a very good example, but it doesn't, it's almost not small enough. Do you know what I mean? It's like, well, there's so many factors. There's not a concrete example that I can give that isn't as big as that. Is what could we use to get that information across? Are there kind of more obvious examples?
It's all things like
One thought that just pops into my mind is if you're trying to sell uncertainties to somebody, I personally wouldn't try to sell uncertainty. I would flip it on its head and try to sell confidence. So how do you sell confidence? Like if I approach somebody and say, I can make you more confident in your decisions or your analysis or something like that, rather than I can make you more uncertain in your, it could be just, confidence is 1 minus uncertainty, right? So it could just be flipped on its head. And I think this is much easier to sell.
robustness as well. I think robustness is another good word there. You know, things might not work out the way you think. You want to be protected against that. Is there a reason that you use the word uncertainty and not risk? If you was to reposition what you do as risk mitigation, management teams will probably get it more.
Maybe, but risk has so many different uses and so many different conflicting meanings. I tend never to use the word because I'm afraid that people will misunderstand it. For many people, risk has more than just probability and uncertainty. It has to do with the magnitude of the consequence as well. And that just adds another dimension, which is not what I intended to talk about. It's an important dimension, but it's not the uncertainty part.
Yeah, well, it's a bit with EPSRC buzzword speak, I guess we should all talk about resilience.
Good word, yes.
Coming back to Ron's point, there are examples where you can show that more uncertainty means more rich information. For example, I had this meeting with this company, and I showed them that the method that they were using, they were trying to determine the importance of the inputs for the model. They were using a maximum likelihood approach, so they had only one estimate for the importance of this variable. We did another kind of analysis where we sampled from the whole distribution, and we said, look, If you just consider these 2 points, you might consider one of the inputs to be less important, but if you have the whole distribution, you can see that they overlap, so you would be discarding something that you shouldn't really. So you have more information here that you haven't considered. And you know, that was one thing to say you should adopt this kind of methods that consider uncertainties that you haven't quantified before. So we have to find this kind of examples. I'm not saying that all of them will be like that, but there are instances in which you can show that there is an advantage to using these methods.
And I think actually, probably this kind of audit could bring together a lot of those examples in a case that would maybe make our lives much easier in going to the management and saying, look, there are these N examples, this is the benefit that they've brought. And that gives us a much stronger case, where it's quite difficult for me, and I'm guessing a lot of the industry colleagues, to know all of those cases because they're in a broad academic community. So you have got lots of these examples, it's just very hard to bring them together in a way that I can get at easily.
And to further that point, there's also, even within a company itself, they might have actually had lots of siloed instances of risk, but the management are unaware of all of them, because one, they'll be relatively small, but two, their turnaround time is just so fast that you can't, as a manager in a company, even if you come across some of these risks, the turnaround time is very quick. You don't have the time to be able to approach academic community and get in the knowledge. So being able to pull together all of the instances within the company and say that if you had a group in-house, then they could together work on these, rather than saying, okay, let's get a PhD student because 3 years or something might be far too long. Might take far too long to bring them on, might be far too long for the project itself.
Yeah, I think my point's been mentioned. I think certainly Tony mentioned building awareness is one vehicle for adoption. And I think success stories and use cases are a good vehicle for taking to, we've got awareness amongst decision makers and engineers is perhaps barrier to adoption. So use cases and success stories are very good, but I think use cases and success stories that have a business dimension are also more powerful. I'm not sure the business benefits of adopting UK in terms of cost reduction, product improvement, time reduction, time to market reduction, and so on. So, not just a technical use case, but a business use case that can be used to persuade decision makers within the organisation.
It's tricky because there's counterfactuals involved.
Yeah.
We decided we'd do this, and look, it works, but how would it be if we hadn't done that? We don't ever really know.
Tony, were you not involved in a Pratt & Whitney one where they did?
I wasn't really involved. I mean, Pratt & Whitney early adopted the sort of emulators and calibration with uncertainties in model discrepancy and so on. I never saw anything they did, but the guy who was running this suddenly got a very big team. Obviously was doing something right within the company. How the company benefited from it, I don't know. He said there were billions of dollars.
He did put a cost to it.
Yeah, a lot of money he claimed that they'd made from it. But I never saw concrete evidence of that.
Lynn, yes.
Yeah, so those of you who've been involved with this SIG for a while, and we tried to put together use cases in a template, etc. But I think there's two issues. One is that trying to get that kind of information on your company and how have you used it is very confidential and very difficult to do it. And also I think that the template, the use cases were far too detailed and too technical to really show the generalized use of them. I think it might be an interesting task to come up with some use cases. Use cases doesn't mean that they're case studies. They're how these things can be used and what kind of benefits you can get out of this kind of use. they come up with some generalized use cases. This is how you could use it, and this is how it benefits you. I think that might be really useful.
Hi. I would like to say that if we call uncertainty, what definition sound new, but if we call uncertainty in engineering, like General Electric improved a lot the design, the products and the revenues using what was called design for C sigma. So like there are practical examples of big companies in US who made a lot of money using this kind of techniques. So even if we don't use a specific, there are specific cases, but even if you consider a real company like General Electric that is not really a startup. So I was a former General Electric employee, like at that time was called the FSS, it was not called UQ, but like it was a strong impact in the company. Every employee in the R&D was obliged to use the statistical methods for design. And during the first year you should pass an exam, otherwise you were not allowed to be part of the R&D. And that had a strong impact in the company.
We have two other questions. I think we probably touched on them by diversion quite nicely, but perhaps rather reflect on what's on the screen behind you. And basically, it's the question for number two, and I know both of you were very keen to answer it straight away. So where would you put the roadblocks?
So everybody here has heard of the software development life cycle. Has anybody heard of that? Okay. In computer science research, we also have something called the software development death cycle. And there's some elements that overlap. So it starts with some academic working very hard to put together a funding application. Right? Sometimes it succeeds, so we get funding. Then we work hard to find some personnel to fill the role, like a research assistant role, maybe, or maybe it's a PhD student role. And then when that's finished, we work hard to train that person for at least the first year of their studies or their posts, to give them all the necessary skills they need to develop, for example, visualization software. And in the second year of the cycle, that's when the traditional software development life cycle takes place. Right? We spend lots of time developing these nice visual interfaces, developing fancy algorithms, and tuning our results, getting the results that we want. Then we publish the results if everything's going according to plan. And the last stage is the death. So we spend lots of money and time on this beautiful research prototype software, and then the student graduates, or the RA finishes their post, and the software goes to the recycling bin. So it's a lot of time and money, millions of pounds of time, worth of time and money put into the recycling bin to their death at the end of each one of these, say, PhD or RA position projects. And this is happening all over the place, not just in the UK, but everywhere in all academic institutions, in every computer science department. It seems especially tragic in data visualization because that software is so valuable. People see that software and they want it, they want to use it immediately. And I get lots of email correspondence saying, where can I get that software? Can I get, how do I get that, and so on. So the software development death cycle is one of the big barriers that prevents us to really bridging that gap between academics and industry, for example.
So major roadblocks.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, I'm certainly familiar with the idea that ideas I develop just die. Happens all the time. But some get picked up, and that's, I mean, this whole thing is part of that. It's nice when what you do begins to take off. And from my point of view, I think, in a sense, the straight emulation stuff is mature technology now, pretty much. It can go out. There's software, it's workable, That people already know how to use it very fluently. I don't, but people do. And it's beginning to move. So not as fast as you'd like it to, but it's beginning to be taken up in a whole bunch of areas. But there are barriers still, as we've talked about some of those, but there's also all these other less mature things that I'd like to see moving in. Some of them are still in my head. But, you know, there's so much more that could be done. But and the barriers are there. Simply that we haven't developed it down to the point where it's a mature, you know, technology rather than a bit of scientific research. We need to move those things forward as well, and it's always difficult to do that. The nice thing, we had this big MUCM funding which took the emulator stuff and really started to move that forward. It was a great thing. It was a big grant. One would like to see more of those. Then going to this sort of area to move forward some of these more advanced technologies, you know, like the calibration with model discrepancy, really using the model discrepancy properly, like the sensitivity analysis, do that more carefully, like the understanding properly what we mean by verification and validation. I think that's another area where there's work to be done. You know, and then decision making under uncertainty. It should be mature, but it's just not being used properly.
That's not a big decision, a whole conversation itself, the decision making aspect. Alex?
Well, there are cultural barriers and language barriers. By cultural, I mean, well, many times in industry, they are hungry for the immediacy of results. And of course, they want the results to be quick and precise, and whereas in academia this might take a long time to develop. And also the language barrier. I mean, I've spent my life studying my discipline, and of course an aerospace engineer has done the same, and we cannot pretend that in one meeting or in 1 week I will understand all the details of his problem or her problem, and the other way around. But things are happening, are starting to happen, like in my experience, the Center for Doctoral Training that we have in Liverpool, the projects demand that the student has 2 supervisors from 2 different disciplines, plus an industrial supervisor, so that has stimulated the conversation between academics and academia, and things like the M2D network as well. And I think that there has to be an effort of communication. I would love to see, maybe this is happening in some companies, that there's seminar sessions, for example, that they invite academics to speak about techniques, and that we as universities invite more people from industry to talk about the problems. That was the idea behind the study group, for example. We also have this stakeholder day where people from industry come and talk to us about the problems. So there is a barrier in the language. Obviously, there are different disciplines, but there are ways around it, and there are things happening which are very, which is very positive.
I think time has run away from us, actually. So can we perhaps give the last comment to Sanjeev, and then any final thoughts from the panel? So Sanjeev.
So actually, I wanted to bring Joe and Teresa in, because Joe is working with Simon, so Simon is already quite into and quite supportive of the work we're doing, and Teresa is working with someone who's got a very open mind about trying to use new methods. So I wondered if you could talk a little bit about the experiences you've had in terms of the barriers you see, or the positive things you see. Ladies first.
So the first year of my PhD, I was in Airbus a lot, and I started by approaching the problem by doing a lot of data analytics on Airbus data. And when I had my first year review in academia, I was told I was too industry focused, and I should step out and generalize the problem. And I guess that's been an ongoing issue for my particular PhD.
Well,
I mean, Simon was supposed to be here, I think. So he's personally very open to all kinds of esoteric methods and whatever you can think of. The problem, at least I see him having, is then interacting with the rest of Airbus, who's not necessarily educated in statistics, even as far as saying I am, and I'm not a statistician. So when he, for example, say, okay, it's very important that we quantify this uncertainty in this way, quite often he'll be going to the question of either why or how. There's valid reasons, and people are open to listening to that, of course, but it's trying to communicate them in a way that is sort of falls in line with what all the other different departments are doing, because obviously everything has to connect together. So there's certainly, from my admittedly limited perspective, very much scope for introducing new things, but kind of like connecting all the wires and getting the information to be passed everywhere, stored in the right place without an awful lot of boilerplate, I suppose, is quite difficult.
I'll just add a little bit to that. My industrial partner, I'm a PhD as well. My industrial partner are primarily a research group that are on profit, the Cullen Centre for Fusion Energy. So, on one hand, they're a little bit more receptive, or by the sound of it, a little bit more receptive to new techniques. Being a research group, the majority of people there are R&D, so they're open to anything, and there's a lot of benefits to that. So you get new people to work with you, new projects, and all the time people offering solutions. It kind of goes back to what Alex said before. I think there is an element that is important for industry to remember what PhDs are there to do as well. So they're not just a cheap labour force, because it sometimes feels like some of the projects that get pushed my way are because you do UQ, most people are like, oh, UQ is hard, we don't want to do it, can you just do this project for us, as opposed to actually engaging in the use of a PhD student in that regard.
I think we are probably going to have to draw on to taxes to come in. Do we thank Bob, Tony and Alex for the time and